So what I'm going to be talking about today is what does this look like in practice, right? And again, going through this journey myself and still, being on this journey, at the beginning of this year, I really, really understood what it meant to love myself more than loving anyone else. And now, as an empath, and for those of you who might not know what an empath is, I'll just explain it quickly. It's just someone who really is very sensitive and receives and feels a lot of the emotions of other people. So I've been an empath my entire life. I did not find out that I was until the beginning of my spiritual journey. And as an empath and as someone who really grew up, affected by childhood trauma, I definitely was the type of person who, was a people pleaser, still am, still working on it, and was always very worried and concerned about everybody else and everybody else's feelings and emotions. And so for me, at the beginning of this year, I just want to share quickly, and then we'll get into the practicalities of this, is that I was in a relationship that I was not happy in. I was not feeling fulfilled. I was not feeling taken care of. And I knew that I wasn't getting what I really wanted, and finally realizing what I really deserved, right? And it took me some time to kind of realize that and understand. And suddenly I knew that I needed to break up with my partner, who in all honesty is a wonderful human being and I truly care about. I still care about him. And so the act of me breaking up with him, because even though I care about him deeply and he's a wonderful person, and I knew that me breaking up with him was going to hurt his feelings terribly, the act of me still moving away from that relationship because I knew it was not good for me was huge for me. Because years ago, I would have never done that. I would have stayed unhappy because my unhappiness didn't matter. What mattered was my partner or whoever else I was trying to make happy, and I was caring for, and I was nurturing, and I was taking care of, right? And so that brings me to my number one item, let's say, of what self-love might look like in practice. And that is when you know that you are able to make big, difficult, hurtful decisions, okay, that we know are going to hurt someone else, that are really, really hard, that, are just not in anyone else's best interest but our own, then we know we are stepping into true self-love. True understanding of our worth, true understanding of what we deserve as people, as human beings, as souls. And I have to tell all of you that when you make decisions like that, as difficult as they are, because for me, it was both empowering and crushing. And I shared this on an Instagram comment that I made, and so many people responded, understanding what I had done, and because they have either are in the situation where they want to move away and they can't because it's so difficult, or have made the same decision and understand how empowering it is. But it is empowering. For me, it felt empowering and crushing at the same time. Because boy, hurting someone's feelings is the worst thing and the last thing that I ever want to do. Ever. So much so that I would never, ever make a decision like this to better myself, because the person's feelings, their feelings were more important than mine. And so once you make that switch, once you really understand, wait a second, my feelings matter. I matter. My happiness matters. What I need and want and desire matters over anything else. Once you make those decisions and understand and really feel what that is and what that means, you are sending out this amazing energy that just tells the universe that you are finally understanding why you're here, who you are, right? And that you are number one. And that message sent to the universe increases your vibration beautifully, and the universe will really start responding to you in many, many ways. And so that is, for me, the first way that like you can really show and you really know that you're stepping into true self-love, right? The second, which I probably just alluded to already anyway, is really the idea, again, of no longer putting someone else's feelings above your own. It's just, and look, I'm coming from a place of understanding. I'm telling you this because most of my life, okay, till probably the beginning of this year, everybody else is more important than me. I wanted everyone else to be happy. I wanted everyone else to feel good. I wanted everything to be okay, everything to be calm, everything to be settled, right? And so, you know, and again, a lot of that comes from my own trauma and wounding. And the idea of putting myself first and you know, understanding how important that is has been life-changing and a huge life lesson on this journey. I mean, it has taken me a long time to get here, but I can tell you that to make that decision, that really difficult, challenging decision, has given me such strength within, like I've never felt before. And I know that I can never go back because I now understand what it feels like to take care of myself, to focus on me, to understand what is necessary for me to feel fulfilled, happy, purposeful, loved. And at the end of the day, right, it's wonderful to connect to someone else and get love from other people. But the number one important thing that we are all here to do is to learn that we are our number one. Learning to love ourselves is number one. We are actually all we need first. Then we can make connections with others. But until that is, our own cup is filled, it's very difficult to make healthy connections with others. And so there's a lot of learning. That's why there's a lot of learning in relationships. But we'll get into all of that in other videos. And so number three, the third way that you really can start telling, like the practical way, knowing that you're really tapping into your self-love, is establishing boundaries, even though they might upset others. And making a decision to walk away from a partner who you really care about and who's an amazing person, that's a form of a boundary, right? Like, okay, this is not working for me anymore, and so I need to put up a boundary and separate myself from you, even though this is so painful and it's going to upset and hurt you so badly. Or, you know, feeling forced to do things that you don't really want to do, and you don't say no because you don't want to hurt that person's feelings, or you don't want to make people feel bad, or you don't want to look like, you know, you're not cooperative, right? And so learning to put that boundary up of saying, you know something, honestly, I don't really want to do that today, or I don't really want to be involved in, you know, I don't know, that group that you have, or whatever it is. If something doesn't fuel you, if something doesn't move you, if something doesn't, you know, make you feel good and excited about it, and it's not like, you know, a let's say task that is like necessary for survival or for, let's say, your job, right? Like, you know, there's always a balancing act, right? Things are relative. But if things aren't really moving you, or like they're not really feeling like it's something that you really want to do, it's okay to say no. And the more you start doing that and putting those boundaries up, right, the more you'll get used to doing it, and the more you'll be able to sit in the discomfort of knowing that someone is upset because you've just said no, or you haven't agreed to do something, or you're not going to show up somewhere, or you're going to stop letting people, you know, I don't know, this is a silly example, but like swim in your pool when you're not there, right? Sure, you can swim in my pool. Yeah, it's not a problem. You know, it's okay. And meanwhile, inside you're like, oh gosh, like that's so like I'd really rather not, right? I mean, this is a very silly example, but I'm just saying, I know I've done that all throughout my life, and I still do it sometimes. I agree to do something that I know I don't want to, or I agree to allow others to do something that I know they'd rather not do, or I know I'd rather them not do, right? Because the thought of upsetting people, it's like the worst thing for me. But what is that doing? That is betraying me. That is betraying what I actually want. And that's putting what I want on the back burner and putting what others want at the forefront. And that is where we have to be careful with balancing, right? Betraying ourselves and being okay with doing certain things, right? It's a balance. I'm not saying that you can never say yes to things. There's a lot of times where we have to compromise and do things that we don't want to do, and that's okay. But if it's on a consistent basis and you're always unhappy and feeling kind of used and taken for granted and feeling less self-worth because you know that you're just doing all of these things that you never really wanted to do, then that's really when it starts tapping into your energy. It's sucking you dry and you're not showing up as your best self. And honestly and frankly, it's just not getting anyone anywhere. So boundaries are another great practical way that can really show you that you're starting to tap into that self-love. So that is my spiel for today. I hope you enjoyed this information. I will be creating many more videos around this idea of how do we establish self-love? What does that look like? What does it feel like? So if you enjoyed this information in this video, please, of course, feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Cannot wait to hear from you. And I'll see you on the other side, soul family. Take care. Bye-bye.